Hi, welcome. Now, in today's lesson, we'll be dealing with how to transpose, or rather, someone could say that, say I've never heard about transposing, yet I've heard about manipulating a formula, manipulating a formula. Someone could simply say it's just to play with the formula, right? It's either you are transposing or you're manipulating the formula or you're just playing around with the formula. But the question is, why are you doing that? Well, let's go to this. So, to transpose or to manipulate the formula or to play around with the formula, it's simply to rearrange the formula so that a different variable is on one side by itself. It's on one side by itself. It's simply to change the subject of the formula. Now, this is what I mean. And don't be scared. Me using variables here does not elevate this to pure math. It's still what it is. Now, just for a second, just bear with me. Let's say I had A plus B is equals to C. Now, this must look a bit strange, but bear with me, it will make sense. Now, all these A, B, and C, they are all variables. The reason why we are saying that A, B, and C are all variables is because they could be any number. A could be any number, B could be any number. The same way C could be any number. We don't know what their values are, hence we call them variables. Now, let's say A was a 2. And we didn't know what B was, but we knew that C is a 5. Now we have a problem here. The problem that we have is that 2 plus B is equals to a 5. You can't add a letter and a number and all of a sudden you're getting a number. You must solve this. This needs to be solved. How do you solve such an equation? Well, you need, let me get something different here. You need this variable here to be on one side by itself so that the whole formula can make sense. See? So we are manipulating. The reason why we manipulate or the reason why we transpose or the reason why we change the subject of the formula, we simply want the formula to make sense, because when it's like this 2 plus B is equals to 5, it does not make sense. So how do we make it to make sense? That's why you are here. And that's why also I am here. Now, first, before we start doing all the calculations, let's do what we always have to do. We cannot not do this. This has to be done. Yes, of course. Now our calculator is ready and we are ready. Now let's solve this mystery. Let's solve this little mystery that we have come up with here. Let's solve it. Now, first thing that I would like you to understand, I'd like you to understand that in order for you to play around with the formula, you need to understand that you need to group your signs. Addition goes with subtraction, multiplication goes with addition, and you will understand why. Like I asked you, please bear with me here. In order for you to transpose something that has an additional sign, it has to change to a negative sign. Vice versa, if you want to transpose something that has a subtraction sign, it has to change to a positive sign. Now, in order for you to transpose something that has a multiplication, it has to use a division. If you have to transpose something that has a division, you have to use a multiplication. Don't be like, I am leaving. No, don't go anywhere. You need this. Relax. Just bear with me. Now, let's go to the example so that you can understand what exactly I am saying. It says that range is a 10, but the minimum value is a 5. Now we are asked to calculate the maximum value. Now, range by itself has a formula. The formula for range is that a maximum, you have to subtract a minimum, right? Now, someone could say, but say that I've never heard that. I've only heard that biggest number minus the smallest number. It's the same thing. And someone would like say, never heard about these two. What I've known thus far is that the highest value, and you subtract the lowest value. It's still the same thing, whether big minus small, max minus min, high minus low, it's still the same thing. So for the purpose of this example, we are simply going to use max and min. They mean the same thing, it's just synonyms. All right. So now the problem that we have here is that range is a 10, it's equals to a maximum that they did not give us. So here we can simply write max, and then we have to subtract a 5. Now I told you, remember when we are here, I told you that this does not look like it makes sense. We have to solve it so that it makes sense, so that it looks traditional, like what we know. 1 plus 2 is equals to 3. Not 1 plus 2 is equals to B. No, we don't want that. We want something that makes sense. So now how do we solve this? Now I want you to pay your attention to the -5 here. Remember, we want max. Max, what do we want with max? We want max to be on one side by itself. We want max to be on one side by itself. In order for us to do that, remember when I said grouping of the signs? This is where they come in handy. This is keeping max to be on one side by itself. So we have to get rid of this. How do we get rid of this? Well, we can simply take this and send it to the other side to be with number 10. But like I told you, if it has a negative sign, it has to change to what? To a positive sign. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to say a 10 plus a 5. This 5, when it comes from this side going to the left side, it no longer becomes a -5. It has to change the sign. Now it becomes a +5. It is equals to a max. Now if we can go to our calculator and say 10 plus 5, we are going to get 15. So now we know that 15 is our answer for max. But how true is this? Can we prove that this indeed is true? Yes, we can. Remember, we have a formula. Formula says range is equals to the maximum value subtracting the minimum value. Now, if we are saying that our answer basically is a 10, and we are saying that the answer that we got for maximum value is a 15, and we are saying that the minimum value is a 5. Does this now look traditional? Does it look like something that makes sense? Does it look solved? Of course it does. Why? Because let's go to our calculator and say that 15, when you are subtracting a 5, guess what? You get a 10. The whole concept of transposing is all about this. But now let's continue to make sure that we cement the knowledge that you already have. And like I always say, you can pause the video if you want to pause the video and give them a go. And then you continue with the video after you feel like you have given them a go. Now let's come here. Now we are told that a range is at 20. The maximum value is at 30. Now we have to calculate the minimum value. Now, again, the first thing with regards to transposing, you need to know the right formula. And the formula for range hasn't changed. It's still the maximum value. You have to subtract the minimum value. Now, they said the range is 20. Said the maximum value is 30. What could be the minimum value? Now, again, 20 is equals to 30 minus mean. Doesn't look to me like it's a normal formula. How do I make it look normal? How do I make it to become more understandable? I have to transpose. Now to transpose again, remember, like I said, if you want to transpose, you have to look at the sign. What sign does, remember, something that is keeping the minimum from being on one side by itself is this 30. This 30. This 30 has a positive. How do we know it has a positive? Because it does not have a negative next to it. If it's just a number, like if I were to come to you and say 5, 5 is positive. How do you know that 5 is positive? Because I didn't say -5. Had I said -5, then you would know that it's negative. But if I just say 5, it is a positive. Because it's just written 30, it's a positive, unless they had written -30. Now, because this is positive, remember you have to send it the other side. When you send it the other side, what does it do? It becomes a negative. Like I said, the grouping of sign. If it's positive, it has to become negative when it goes to the other side. So now let's come here and say that 20 minus a 30. See, now it's a negative, is equals to a negative mean. Yes, we are still going with it, and you will see the reason why. Let's go to our calculator. Now, when we get to our calculator, we can simply say a 20 minus a 30. It's going to give us a -10. Now we have a -10 is equals to a negative mean. But because both sides, we have negative both sides, this could cancel this, and we are going to have that 10 is equals to the mean that we're looking for. But again, is this true? And if it is, how true is it? Because we have to prove it. With regards to transposing, at the end of the day, you have to prove whether what you are doing is indeed correct. Again, we know that range is equals to the maximum value minus the minimum value. Now, our range was given as a 20. Our maximum value was given as a 30. We have found that minimum value is a 10. Does this make sense? Let's go to our calculator and say a 30. When you are subtracting a 10, do you indeed get it? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Indeed, we do get a 20. Now, that's how you do it. No, you're still with me, right? Ah, I can tell. Now, let's go to the next one. Now, the next one says that range is 30. Range is 30. Maximum value is 20. Calculate the minimum value. So now, let's do this. Again, we are going to say that range is equal to maximum minus a minimum. You have to start with the formula so that it makes sense for you as well. 30 is equals to a maximum value of 20 minus a minimum value. That's what we are looking for. Now, again, what is problematic here? Well, say we have this is keeping this. Okay, no, I have to go the other side. This 20 is keeping minimum from being by itself. How do we solve that? Well, we can send it to the other side. Now, when we send it to the other side, remember I said a number by itself, it's a positive. It has to be a negative. So we are going to say that 30 minus 20 is equals to a negative minimum. Okay, say. Now it looks like we have a problem. Where do we? Let's go to the calculator. Let's say a 30 subtracting by a 20, and you're going to get a 10. So it says that 10 is equals to negative mean. Now I came up with this purposefully so. Remember here we had a negative 10, negative minimum. You can simply cancel the negatives and you will remain with the positives. But here it's only one side that has a minimum, that has a negative. This simply means that the 10 is actually a negative. Now, this is what I mean. So if you were to write this, it would simply mean that negative 10 is our minimum. Does that look strange? No, it does not. Let's prove why we are saying this is the case. Again, let's go here. Range is equals to maximum minus a minimum. Our range was 30. Our maximum was 20 minus. This is the usual minus that comes up with the formula. Minus. But then this one is the one that has been carried by a 10 because we said our minimum is a negative 10. Minus 10. Okay. How do I put this in the calculator? Now watch. So we say that a 20, when you minus it, and then you open the brackets, and then you also minus, or you have a negative 10 within those brackets, will you be able to get a 30? Oh, look at that. You are indeed getting a 30. What I am trying to show you here is that you can prove after transposing whether indeed your steps were correct, but to use or to do the steps, you essentially follow everything that I have been doing. Now let's move from a positive and a negative. How about we attack something that slightly has a multiplication and some division? How do we deal with that? When we come to speed, time, and distance, and by the way, what I was doing there at the top It essentially has to do with range. It also has to do with interquartile range, anything that has a positive and negative. But now here we have something that has a multiplication sign, something that has a division sign. How do we deal with that? Okay, first, let's go to the question. The question says that doesn't. Now, why would you name someone doesn't? Doesn't traveled 300 kilometers from. So we know this before we go anywhere. I know we are not yet doing speed, time, and distance, but we know this is a distance because that's the distance that was traveled from Johannesburg to Rustenburg at an average speed. Okay, here. No need to interpret. They've given us that it's the speed indeed. Calculate the time. Calculate the time traveled in hours. You may use the following formula. Now we have a problem here. The problem is that they want the formula that they gave us has distance as the subject of the formula. Distance is on one side by itself. But as the question said, you have to calculate time, meaning that the formula was supposed to have time on one side by itself, but they didn't do that. Why? Because we know how to do that. Let's show them that indeed we know how to do that. So, if you have a formula that says distance is equals to speed multiplied by time, but essentially you want to calculate time, you have to transpose. Now, let's say distance they gave us as 300. Speed they gave us as 100. Which sign did I say goes with multiply? What did I say you have to do if you see a multiplication sign? I said you have to use a divide. So now, because you have this essentially, now in order for you to get t on one side by itself, what you have to do, you have to divide. Because it's multiply, you have to divide. This is a division sign, by the way. We are doing this so that it makes even more sense. What exactly are we dividing by? We are dividing by this because this is what we don't want. We want t to remain by itself. We don't want 100. What are you doing going around with t? We have told you to stop going. Okay, let's leave the theatrics. Now, we are also going to divide. So what we are going to do on the right, we also have to do on the left. Because we divided by 100 here, even on the other side of the left, we also have to divide by 100. Now, because we have divided both sides by 100, we all can tell that this 100 is going to cancel this 100. And therefore, we are going to remain with a t. 300 over 100. Let's see. I'm trying so hard not to do mental maths here. It's going to be 3 hours. So time is 3 hours. That's how you solve this. Again, when you can transpose, you have to prove. With regards to each and every question that comes up with you having to transpose, just know that at the end of the day, you have to be sure. You have to prove whether you actually did get all the marks. How do you do that? You go back again. We said that distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. We're given distance to be 300. We are given time to be 100. We're given speed to be 100. We have calculated time to be 3. Does this make sense? Let's go to the calculator. Calculator, it's 100 multiplied by 3. Are we getting 300? Oh, there we go. See what I'm talking about? Never skip or never write any question that asks you to transpose and then at the end of the day you don't prove it. Prove it to yourself. These are the marks that you leave the exam room knowing that they are in the bag. They are in the bag. Therefore, you have proved it. Let's go to the next one. The next one says that sleeper. Okay, I'm starting to have a problem with the person who is naming these people if they are indeed people. Anyways, sleeper traveled for 2 hours. Sleeper traveled for 2 hours. This is time. From Springs to Centurion at an average speed, well, no need for interpretation, of 100 kilometers per hour. Calculate the distance traveled. So they want us to calculate distance traveled. Let's see. Does the formula also ask us to calculate the distance? Well, you may use the formula which says average speed. Okay, problem. Average speed, but you want us to calculate distance. Oh, we know how to transpose, don't we? Well, we do. Now, since we know that, okay, I wanted to write average speed, but it's fine. Let me just write speed. This is an S, this is not a 5. And don't you dare start saying things about my handwriting. I'm kidding. Anyways, distance, divide. I would always like to use this divide like this. Yes, I'd like to use it like this. Divide by time. As we have, yes, S is, or speed is 100 kilometers. Distance we don't have, it's what we are looking for. Time we do have. This is a division sign, which, by the way, okay, before we get there. So now, we are trying to isolate, we are trying to get D to be on one side by itself. Who is disturbing D from being on one side by itself? Well, it's this guy here called a 2. How do we destroy a 2? Since we have a division, we must come up with a multiplication. So now we will multiply by 2. What we do on the right, we also do what? On the left, also multiply by 2. Now our answer is going to be 200. I'm sorry for doing mental maths. It might not be 200. Come on. There we go. It's 200. And this 2 will cancel this 2. It's going to be a D. So basically the distance is 200. Again, let's prove it. We said that speed is equals to distance. Okay, even if we can write it like this, divide by time. Speed was given as 100. Distance we have found to be 200 because that's what we are proving. Divide by the 2 hours which were given. Does this make sense according to the calculator when we say 200 divide by 2? Well, it does. It gives us 100. Therefore, we know that I want you to gain more confidence doing such questions because at the end of the day, you can prove yourself. You don't need a memo. You can prove yourself whether you are doing them or you have done them right or correctly. Now, let's go to the last one. Now, when we get to the last one, it says that Roller, by now you are used to the naming of these people. Roller traveled 150 kilometers. This has to be distance. For 1.5 hours, this has to be time. From Benoni to Delmas, calculate the average speed he was traveling at in kilometers per hour. Now, distance is equal to speed. You see, distance, but they want us to calculate speed. We are no longer complaining. Distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. Do we have distance? Of course, we have it as 150 is equals, do we have speed? No, we don't. That's what they're asking us to calculate. Do we have time? Yes, we have it as 1.5. Now, where is our problem? Our problem is here. Why is this a problem? We want it to be on one side by itself. Who is disturbing it from being on one side by itself? It's this guy here called 1.5. How do we get rid of 1.5? Let's check the sign. Is the sign a divide or a multiplication? It's a multiplication. How do we deal with multiplication signs? We divide. Therefore, we have to divide by what? By 1.5, because that's what we're trying to get rid of. And how about 150? We do the same thing. Now, this will cancel this. We are going to remain with an S. And let's go to our calculator quickly. Let's say 150 divide by 1.5. We are getting 100. They were traveling at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. But is this correct? Again, let's prove it. Distance is equals to speed multiplied by time. Our distance was given as 150. Our speed we have found, sorry about that, to be 100. Time was given as 1.5. Let's go to the calculator. When we say 100 multiplied by 1.5, are we going to get 150? Oh, there we go. Therefore, we know that we are correct. So that's just about that. But now stay tuned and be on the lookout for the next one that is going to come. This one has past question paper extracts, so we'll be trying to solve past questions from past papers so that you can understand even more how they ask these questions and how you are supposed to answer these questions. So thank you. Keep well.